Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today, but first, I have a question. Jeff.
Yeah?
How are you doing today?
Doing okay. Took a nap today, which is, like, I don't normally do naps, but, you know,
sure.
It's whatever. I find that if I nap, then I end up like sleeping for like I end up napping for way longer than I need to.
Yeah.
And then I kind of feel like icky and miserable afterwards. Like naps don't refresh me. Like they make me feel worse. So that's my exciting day. It's a Saturday, so how about you? What you up to?
Jeff.
Yeah.
I've already told you this, but this is for the benefit of our listeners.
Oh, right.
I got a VR set.
Ooh.
And it is amazing. I don't recall if I have said anything about my opinions on VR before on the podcast.
I think in one of the bonus episodes.
Probably.
Yeah.
But like I've always felt it was probably just kind of a gimmick. And to be fair, I think it is still in the gimmick stages. However, it's amazing. And more people should get into VR. It's great. It's so cool.
Yeah. It is a lot of fun. It is pretty great. And like the simplest things in it, like Google Earth in VR is like it's fun. It's a good time. Like you just look around and it's like, oh, this is really neat. Like you're just in a 3D representation of Earth.
Yeah, you could go into Street View. You could just put yourself in the middle of some city you've never been to.
Yeah.
And then, quote unquote, explore that city all in your own home.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it's like you could just go into Street View on your own house and be like, oh yeah, like,
yeah,
there it is. And, because it's Google, they've been keeping their images, like their Google like Street View images up. Like for some places they're up to date, for some places they're like years behind. So like it's kind of interesting. Sometimes you find an area that's like an area that you've been to in real life, but the images aren't up to date. So it's like, oh, this is from like 2012. It'll say in the corner like this image is from 2012. You're like, yeah, that is what that looked like in 2012 or whatever.
Yeah, I did go to our house and there was a car in the driveway that we haven't had for about a year, so it's a little out of date, but
right.
But yeah. I mean, it was taken on a bright sunny day, so at the very least, it's like, oh, I'm outside my house on a bright sunny day.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
And like I've even gotten Lisa to play around with the VR a little bit because just from having a Steam account, there's a free thing called Steam VR, which is just kind of like just puts you in an environment, and then you can download more environments and you can like play little games and stuff. But she loves just putting on the VR and then just going to like a beach. There's like ones that are based off of real life locations. That's just like, oh, it's a sunny beach. And then she just, for 20 minutes a day can just, quote unquote, sit on the beach during, this cold and dreary winter where you're not really allowed to go anywhere.
Yeah.
It's so cool. I completely didn't think of how much of a benefit that would be.
Right. Yeah.
The first day that I had the VR and I got it set up, I downloaded some locations, and one of the locations is Stormwind from World of Warcraft. And there's no NPCs or anything. It's a big empty world. But like, I haven't played World of Warcraft in years, yet I was able to just walk around, quote unquote, walk around this environment that I'm vaguely, that I'm mostly familiar with. Yeah. And it was just so cool just being in this place that I get to explore. Somebody made one of the GoldenEye multiplayer stages in this game. And again, it's just me. There's nothing there. But like, I would have killed for this as a kid. I would have killed my friends in the game, definitely. But just being able to be in this location that I know from when I was a kid that I only ever saw through this very, very limited viewpoint. And now it's like I get to be there physically. Not actually physically, of course, but close enough.
It's quite amazing. And it's quite amazing like how much your brain fills in some stuff too. Yes. So it's like it makes you feel really immersed. And like, because I played a lot of Skyrim VR. And that was a good time. Just being in the world of Skyrim, like in VR is just a great time. Even without the gameplay, you could just walk around it and be like super cool.
Sure. So just like seriously, everybody out there,
if
start saving up for VR.
Yeah,
it is expensive. I mean, there are more expensive and less expensive options.
Yeah,
but
whatever you gotta do. I think the right now, if you're willing to sell your soul further to Facebook, the Oculus Quest 2 is a good option because it's like $300-$400, I think, just to get the headset, and that's all you kind of the headset and the controllers, which is all you really need. And then that one is standalone. You can have it hooked up to like a gaming PC, so you can play like full powered games on it.
Yeah.
Or you can have it standalone, which will give you less options, but it's still VR. Like it's still really good. Like you still could do like the Stormwind thing or the or like Google Earth thing or something, like where it's it's more just like looking around, which like you think it's like, oh, that's silly that you're spending $400 to look around at a picture. It's like, but it's
a pretty good picture.
It's pretty good. Like it's pretty good, and like the tracking is really good. So it's like everything. It really does feel like it's VR. It's virtual reality. It's the thing from all the sci-fi movies where you're like, man, I can't wait for that to happen. It's happening. Like it's here.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Like there's definitely more work to be done with it, but it is absolutely here.
Sure. Yeah, but there's so much fun stuff to do with this. Patrons expect a bonus episode all about VR very soon.
Yeah, maybe Gabe and I can do like some VR chat adventures or something.
Sure. All right. Well, yeah. So enough about VR. Again, expect some more of that pretty soon, patrons. Possibly everybody else in future episodes. Who knows? So you want to go ahead and jump into this episode, Jeff?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
Okay. So, Jeff, I want you to imagine that let's fast forward in time. The pandemic is over. You're able to go to other people's houses and such once again.
Okay.
So your neighbor, we have established your neighbor is a fairly large scaly individual.
Sure.
He and his wife invite you over for dinner one day. You and Skylar go over there for dinner, and they bring out a roast turkey, and you know that they didn't start. They just started roasting this turkey maybe like 20 minutes ago, but you think they may have special skills that aid in cooking things a little bit faster.
Oh, sure.
Being who they are. So anyway, you're at dinner, you're eating some dinner, you're eating some delicious turkey. And then the room starts to get a little bit blurry.
Oh.
You're sweating a little bit, and who knows, you maybe you start feeling a little disoriented and tired, and everything goes dark.
Oh.
Next thing you know, you wake up. You look around for a moment, and you realize you're laying on top of a big pile of gold and gems and silver and platinum and all sorts of magic items and such. And then you hear a knock on the door, and then your neighbor pokes his head, and he's like, "Hey Jeff, are you okay? I think the turkey, the tryptophan, the tryptophan of the turkey might have put you to sleep a little bit. We laid you down on over in that room over there. I hope you're okay."
Oh yeah.
You doing all right, Jeff?
I think I'm all right.
Okay. Well, thank goodness that we were able to lay you down on the Dragon's Hoard. I'm sorry, listeners. These Dragon's Hoard segments these intros are getting pretty stupid.
I took a turkey nap. Took a turkey nap.
Yeah. So you might have been able to. Maybe you could have benefited from this item. I guess we'll get into that. Today's item is the Tincture of Poison Detection, submitted by Dustin via Discord.
Ding.
So, in the realms of high society, poison is often used to eliminate one's foes. As such, it is usually a good idea to be cautious what you drink. Casting a spell to detect poison is a very obvious tell that you do not trust your host and is a social faux pas. In order to circumvent this difficulty, I present the Tincture of Poison Detection. It is odorless, tasteless, dissolves instantly into liquid, and will detect the deadlier poisons known to man. You okay?
So that is a Princess Bride reference.
Sort of, yeah. Upon contact with a poison, it will change hue to indicate the presence and type of poison. To create this, a person must make a medicine check using an alchemy set. So like whatever your a tools check basically is, I think is how that would be. Anyway, their tincture will now detect any poisons with DCs lower than their roll. Each vial contains 5 doses. Prices of creation may vary. Check with your DM for those relevant to you. So it's just a little bit of a little potion essentially that you can pour into food or onto food, and then it will, depending on your roll, it will detect if there are poisons and give you an indication of what poison it is, which I think is a neat detail.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. I feel like I remember that it might have been the Adventure Zone. Maybe it was something else. There was a magic item that was essentially like a salt shaker that did something similar to this. So like it looks like you're just shaking salt onto your food, but actually, it changes color or something if the food you're shaking onto is poison, which I think is a neat way to flavor this. I guess maybe. No pun intended.
Sure,
but
right.
Even if it is just like a little bottle of something you pour on top, it's just like, I make my own barbecue sauce. And then pour it on there.
Or you'd be like, it's my medication. I got to get it down somehow or something like that.
Sure. I'm supposed to eat this with food.
Right. Yeah. It's like my wife usually hides it in a piece of cheese for me.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I have to wonder, like, maybe not necessarily a social media question, but like, hey, listeners, how many times have any of you been poisoned through a meal or something in D&D?
Right.
Like, it's a common trope, it's that sort of thing. There's all sorts of items that do stuff like this item does, where it's like, you don't want to embarrass your host or whatever, so here's a way to check for poison in your food or whatever. But like, I've never been in a game where this has come up, and I'm curious, how common is this? I think it should be more common, definitely. I would love for more situations where this would be relevant.
Yeah.
I don't know, the types of games that I've played, and I feel like it never comes up.
Right, yeah. Yeah. It's definitely something like you might think about, like if if the magistrate invites you over and you look for like a drink or whatever, and they
sure.
It's like you don't really trust them, and it's like, okay, well, this has obviously got poison in it, so what am I gonna do about it? Like I feel like if the DM offers you a drink in the game, like you're gonna be suspicious.
Sure.
Yeah. So I don't remember any time we had a poisoning.
I don't know. Maybe I need to put some of those in like our Roll20 games or something.
Right. We need more poison in our games.
Sure. More poison.
Yeah.
Other than that, this is a pretty straightforward item. I think it's really cool. I like how it even shows you the type of poison, again, depending on your check and everything. I think that's a nice detail.
Yeah,
Yeah, don't really have much else to say. It's good. It serves a great purpose in a campaign that would use it.
Yeah, for sure. I like it.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for this item. That was, once again, the Tincture of Poison Detection, submitted by Dustin via Discord. Thank you very much, Dustin. Jeff, if anybody else wanted to be like Dustin and they wanted to submit magic items for the Dragon's Horde, or they wanted to submit questions for our main segment, or stories for the funeral pyre or retirement village, how would they do so?
They can send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
There you go. And before we go any further, we have a giveaway to give away today.
Woohoo.
As usual, we're giving away a copy of Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 2, courtesy of Crit Academy. For anyone not familiar, it's a great product that I helped write. It is a collection of 25 character concepts, 25 encounter concepts, magic items, monster variants, player tips and DM tips, all from the Crit Academy podcast. So it's a ton of great stuff for players and DMs alike. So, Jeff, who is the winner of this great product today?
Today's winner is Colin W.
Winner. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Yes, congratulations, Colin W. You should be getting that in your email pretty soon. Be sure to let us know if you don't. If a few days goes by and you still haven't gotten it, let us know. And be sure to leave Crit Academy a review. I'm sure they would love to get more reviews, to get more attention on them, as well as to hear what things can be improved upon in the future. Or if there's something they're doing well and you want them to just do more of it, that'd be great too.
Yeah.
So big thank you to Crit Academy for facilitating this. Good job, Colin W. Jeff, if anybody else wanted to be like Colin W. and win a free copy of this great supplement, how would they do that?
They can send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 2 in the subject line.
Yes, be sure to put Volume 2 in there. That is important. So good luck to everybody who enters for that. Next up, I want to thank all of our wonderful patrons for helping make the show happen. Patreon's an online platform. You can pledge to donate a certain amount of money per month to the content creator of your choice. If you go to ours at patreon.com/interpartyconflict, we have a few different reward tiers. On our lowest tier, we've got a ton of outtakes. We've got a ton of fantasy fiction that I've written. On the next tier up, we've got a monthly bonus podcast. I was just talking about what you can probably expect for the next episode of that at the beginning of next month when that comes out. Also on the top tier, we have a monthly Roll20 game, and our Roll20 game for this month is coming up pretty soon. So I think by the time this goes out, it will be too late to join that, but you can always join next month. I am confident that our Patreon will not be upset by my new work schedule. My new work schedule is turning out to be pretty good, actually. Not as terrifying as I expected it to be.
Sure.
So
that's good.
Yeah. So a big, huge thank you to everybody who has continued to support us on our Patreon. That's so awesome of you guys. We really, really appreciate it. I know times are tough. If anybody has to cancel or reduce their pledge, no worries. You take care of yourself first. Worry about us if you got money left over, But just a huge thank you to everybody out there, and for everyone else that might be interested. Like I said, there's a lot of rewards, so go check that out and see if it's worthwhile to you. And if you do donate, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, and then one more quick thing: check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Check out Crit Academy, critacademy.com. Justin, Ian, and Austin create new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. Check out Brute Force and Ignorance. I believe they're coming back sometime soon. They've got a back catalog you can check out regardless. They're an actual play podcast. Check out D&D Character Lab. They made characters every week and pitted them against each other to debate whose characters were better. And also check out one of the newer editions. Check out the Kind GM, which has started a podcast fairly recently. So Check all of them out. Enough of that. Let's get into some questions, Jeff.
Okay, our first question comes from Jakawa.
Sure.
Jikawa on Reddit, and they ask, is it cheating to look at another player's character sheet?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. So you're sitting down at the table, and maybe you're curious about someone's alignment. You're curious about what gear they have on them. You're curious what spells they have equipped. Let's say maybe they get up and they go and grab a drink from the fridge or something.
And you look at their...
Yeah, you grab their character sheet and you flip it over, look at it, whatever. Is that cheating?
I wouldn't necessarily call it cheating. I would. It could definitely be considered rude.
Sure.
And I mean, I guess it depends on like what kind of game you guys are playing. Like what even in D&D, like what kind of campaign you're running. If the party's less, if there is more inter-party conflict, you might want to be like, playing it close to the chest, and you want to be keeping your character details from everybody else, just to kind of give it that extra bit of intrigue, I guess.
Sure.
But I think in general it's just sort of like, I guess it's kind of rude, like if you're just gonna like grab someone's sheet and start looking through it.
Yeah.
And it's like, because like people, when they make their characters, they're kind of putting a little bit of themselves on that page too, so like
Kinda.
I can see that being like a sort of personal thing. So like, if you want to see somebody's character sheet, or if you're interested in somebody's character, ask them about it.
Yes.
Don't go grabbing their sheet. Now for a DM, obviously, like I feel like you need to be able to see their sheet from time to time to be able to be like, oh right, this is what you guys can do. Yeah.
So like you said, it's not cheating, but it's rude. It is breaking some maybe unspoken etiquette.
Sure, yeah.
There are people are particular about all sorts of things, especially in D&D, not just in D&D, but also in D&D. Like a lot of people don't like anybody else touching their dice, maybe like touching their pencil or something like that. It is rude to anything that belongs to someone else. It is rude to touch it or look over their shoulder or whatever.
Yeah.
I would say most players would probably be willing to show you their character sheet if you asked.
Right.
But some of them might not. Maybe that player is purposely keeping some in-character secrets. Maybe they're working with the DM to do something that they don't want the rest of the players to know about.
Right.
And, maybe that'll work, maybe that won't. But whatever the case, if that's their wishes, you should respect their wishes.
Yeah.
Like you said, Jeff, ask them and then see what they tell you in response.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Just like, and don't necessarily ask them, can I see your character sheet? Because that kind of puts them in an awkward position to have to say no if like you said, they're working with the GM in some way or something like that. Just be like, oh, what, it's just like, oh, what's your, like, how's your, like, you got a high strength? What, you can ask them more specific detail, like the things you want to know about them,
Sure.
Or like, ask them those things in character too, like depending on what it is. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, if you're all like close friends and this is like it's just way more casual, then I guess it's not that big of a deal. Like, like I guess read the group before you go.
Maybe put a little more work into it, like pretend to spill something on their character sheet, and then when they walk away to go get a towel, then look at their sheet.
Right.
No. There was one time I was in a group where the player was working with the DM. The player was actually playing the big bad evil guy of the campaign at the time, and didn't. The rest of us weren't supposed to know. And we had asked him, like, "Hey, what's your character's alignment?" And he was like, "Why don't you try to find out in character?" And we're like, "Oh, okay. Oh, that's interesting." We didn't suspect anything weird at the time, and later we realized why that was.
Right.
But sometimes a player just, they've got a little bit of secret stuff. Maybe they don't want you to know that they're not actually a wizard. They're pretending to be a wizard or something,
Yeah.
If they want to have just that little bit of fun, let them, don't work too hard to try and subvert their plan.
Right.
There have been times where I've seen somebody else's character sheet, not even intentionally, just like I happened to glance over and saw things that completely changed how I interpreted that character. There was one time I think I was in a 4th edition game where one of the players was a dragonborn, but was hiding it. He described his character as having like big bulky armor, and he was hiding. Or no, was he a dragonborn or was he a tiefling? I think it was a tiefling. He was hiding his tail because dragonborns don't have tails, as people like to complain about. He was hiding his tail in his armor. I think he was just posing as like a human or something. And if someone were to look over at his character sheet, they would probably see up at the top tiefling or whatever. Also, I'm sure I've mentioned this at some point on the podcast, but when I was playing as my character Ichi, one of the other players in the group was a lawful evil, like essentially demon cleric. Like he was some weird Forgotten Realms race or whatever, but he was like part demon, and he played his character so not mustache twirlingly evil that being a new player, I didn't realize he was evil. I thought, I don't know what I thought his alignment was, but once I just glanced over and saw lawful evil written at the top of his sheet. And that made me recontextualize everything he had done up until that point. And I was like, oh, so all of the stuff he's done has been deliberately to manipulate the rest of us into being his bodyguard and taking all of the blame for all of the things that he did, all the illegal things he did or whatever.
Right.
And I don't know, I thought that was really cool. And if I was a more experienced player, I would have just noticed it from the beginning. But if that had been a deliberate deception on the player's part, then it would have kind of been unfair for me to look over and see his character.
Right. Yeah. You kind of like spoil some fun for people that way. So like, not necessarily cheating in the way that it's like you're trying to get one up on somebody. It's more just like if somebody's got something cool to tell about their character, let them do it.
Sure. I think that it could be interesting to run a game where the intent is for the players not to know anything about the other players or the other player characters. So like if there was, let's say, a Roll20 game or something where the DM has seen all of the players' character sheets, but the players themselves haven't. I think that could be really interesting. There could be some drama and such that arises as a result. But you got to make that sort of thing clear, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell the players, hey, maybe don't give out any information about your character that isn't in character or something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, you know, it'd be like a neat little thing too to like have everybody like everyone has their own character sheet, and like if it's in person, have like a cover sheet or something too, so you can cover it up or whatever. But I'm thinking of like everybody has like a character sheet for everybody else that they're filling out as they go along. Like kind of like
I really like that.
It's like, okay, I'm pretty sure this person is an elf or maybe a half elf. They have pointy ears or whatever.
Sure.
It's like, oh, that thing that they did. I could see they're probably in the range of lawful good to neutral good, maybe lawful neutral if I'm not understanding what they're doing.
Sure.
You just sort of have little sheets that you fill out what you think the other character is, and like you could just ask them, the character straight out. It's like, oh, are you a half elf? They might say yes or no. They might be lying, So I don't like if that's part of the fun of the game is like your characters getting to know each other.
Yeah, it would be hard to make that work, but if the adventure or whatever was built around the players not knowing about anything about each other, that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I've said in the past something to the effect of like if the challenge of the adventure or the module or whatever is if the challenge comes from the players needing to be ignorant of game mechanics, then that's probably not a very good challenge, or at least it's not necessarily a fun challenge. Mm-hmm. So, I could see, again, if it wasn't the point of the game for the players not to know that, I could see someone thinking like it's pointless to not let everybody know what everybody else's things are. But again, if that's the purpose of the game, I think that could be a lot of fun. And Jeff was saying earlier that the DM should be able to look at the players' character sheets whenever they need to. And I think that's just a part of like the DM is the one kind of fine tuning the game to match the players' strengths and weaknesses. So that is important for them. I would kind of hate to run a game where one of the players was not willing to let the dungeon or for whatever reason didn't want the DM to be looking at their character sheet.
Yeah.
Even if they're not doing anything, even if everything is above board, it's still it would be a little weird having a player that is so secretive about their character that they don't even want the dungeon master looking at their. I don't know. That'd be a little weird. I've never been in that situation. I don't even know if that is a realistic situation, but
I feel like that could probably happen with like or like newer players and stuff, like because I feel like like they have this like cool idea in mind that they kind of want to keep secret from everybody, not realizing if you're keeping secrets about your character from your DM, that is going to hurt the game, the DM and you. Like it's just like it's not going to do you any favors, because like if there's like a specific thing you want to reveal at some time, you might never get the chance, or the DM might do something that makes it impossible, and like you might get upset about it, but you didn't tell the DM anything. So like always work with the DM if you want something cool about your character to come to light.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. You'll never get a story arc built around your character's backstory if you don't tell anybody your character's backstory.
Right. Yeah. It's up to you to keep their character secret from the other players, but yeah,
if that's what you want. Yeah.
Yeah. But we feel that you should share as much detail as possible with your DM.
Yeah.
This made me think of when we're talking about like filling out the character sheets for the other characters, for the other players.
Yeah.
I think you had mentioned like I think we had a previous question about like a gameplay style that doesn't fit well into D&D or something. You were talking about like murder mysteries.
Sure, yeah.
I was like, what if there was like an adventure long or a campaign long like murder mystery that like one of like, or like a an imposter situation where like one of the players, everyone knows that one of the players is like a villain or a killer or a murderer or something like that. So like there is sort of like this whodunit thing going on, and like There is some situation that like makes like so the players have to stick together, but they know one of them is not to be trusted. Sure. And it's just like they just have to kind of go along with each other. Like there's like, I don't know, like the campaign just kind of calls for like for some reason or another they're stuck together, maybe by a curse or whatever. But like they have to stick together, they have to work together, and they have to like stop this, a big bad evil. But in the meantime, they know one of them is not a good person and might do something to, it might do something to thwart them, or maybe do something about like maybe do their own evil deed, not necessarily in league with the big bad evil.
Yeah, there would be a lot of work to make it work, but yeah, if you could build something around that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and I guess just one more thing on this topic, I'll just say that not every player is going to metagame if they know that your character, if they did see your character sheet and they know something about your character that is on there that their character doesn't know. I would say a lot of, possibly most players are going to not let that affect how they act towards your character in game. So for a lot of people, it's not going to be a problem. However, sometimes that happens without intending it to. And not everyone has that in their mind. Not everyone is able to compartmentalize what they know in character and what they know out of character. So even if metagaming isn't an issue, it's still, some people might still just not want other people to know what's on their character sheet.
Right. So. And I feel like I might be kind of guilty of something like I don't necessarily like look at other people's sheets, but I do pry into their character, mostly because I like power building characters and stuff. Like I'm curious to see like, oh, what kind of character, like what's your race, class, stats? Like I want to know the mechanics of your character, not necessarily like the the background and the story of your character, but I do kind of like pry into that maybe more than I should. Be like, oh, I see. Oh, obviously you're doing a half elf ranger. Okay, that makes sense. Or whatever. Like,
sure. I do the same thing. Like when I make a character, I usually ask, what else is everybody in the party, so that I can try to do something that will complement the other players.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, because it's more. Yeah, it's less just like. Yeah, I'm not trying to be rude, but sometimes I am. Sure. Yeah, I am trying to be like, okay, I like, I want to make sure that if this person is playing the elf ranger, like, okay, that's their niche, that's their shtick. I'm gonna kind of like, I'm not gonna try to step on that, and I won't be the nature guy this time because I've done that before. Sure. I'm okay with that, but if somebody wants to be the cleric healer guy, I'm like, okay, that's what they want to do. I will find something else to have fun with, because I don't want to step on anybody's toes and, make them feel like I don't want there to be competition, unless maybe we agreed upon it ahead of time. It's like, what if we were just like, got like two healers that were trying to be the healer of the group, and that was part of the characters, they were trying to one up each other. That might be kind of fun.
Sure.
So, but yeah, not strictly cheating, but could be rude. Just ask.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, our next question comes from Awesome Donut 19. Ooh,
that's an awesome donut.
Yeah, this is on Reddit. How often do you make a character just for role playing versus just for mechanics?
Yeah, so we were just kind of talking about our process for determining what kind of character we're going to make for a campaign and such. How often do you make one versus the other?
Me, it's at the very least it starts 100% mechanics.
Sure.
But I do usually I'll create something based on mechanics because I just I like, it's kind of like a puzzle.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, I'm like, ooh, this is a really good idea. I'll get role playing ideas and background ideas, and I'm just like, ooh, this works really well with these mechanics. It is fun finding a story that fits the mechanics.
Yes.
And I don't know. I guess it doesn't always start. Maybe it doesn't always start purely with mechanics, but there's definitely mechanics. Me building my characters is definitely mechanics driven. So there might be a small spark of, oh, this kind of character would be cool. Let's see what classes and mechanics and whatever will work with that. And then I'll find something that Like I'll find like a multi-class combo that sounds really cool. And like, okay, I'll try to fit that in there. I don't know. So like I would say definitely more on the mechanics side, but there are plenty of times when like the role-playing element of the character like comes to the foreground, and then like it just sort of like they just sort of fit together.
Sure.
So yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of similar. Well, a big part of it though, this is kind of hard to answer because a big part of it depends on what type of a campaign I'm making the character for.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the time when I do play in a campaign, most of the time it's based around mechanics. Like most of the time the campaign itself is not going to be heavy role-playing. There have even been sometimes where I assumed it was going to be heavy role-playing, so I made a heavy role-playing character that is not very good mechanically, and then I get there and it's like, oh, I can't do anything because all we're doing is combat.
Right, yep.
So kind of similarly, I do mostly start with mechanics primarily. I would say maybe like 80% of the time I start with mechanics. But yeah, like Jeff was saying, when I make a character for the mechanics, I then try and think of what's a fun way to roleplay this character. So like I do try to keep that in mind. Also, when I do make a character for roleplaying, I also try to make them as effective as I can mechanically within that role-playing, that whatever idea I was going for. So it's never there. There's a lot of thought of like, oh, well, do you ROLE play or do you ROLL play? And it's like, well, both. I mean,
both.
there is no reason you can't have both. There's no reason you can't be a heavy role player and also min-max your character.
Yeah.
That can be part of the role playing. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be effective even when your character is not built around the mechanics. You can still hope that, well, if we do get down to rolls, I will be good at what I do.
Yeah. Because thinking about it, I think it does kind of start with more of a role play, like just a very basic seed of a role play idea, and then I start building the character mechanically, and then like through the mechanics the rest of the idea comes out. It's like so I start fitting, like creating more of the story based on the mechanics that I'm finding, like my dwarf ranger from our actual play thing that we did. I can't remember exactly how it started, but like I wanted to have like a monster hunter. Sure. I wanted to do that. So I was like, okay, Ranger has some sort of like beast hunter stuff in it,
Mm-hmm.
But like I didn't end up going with, I think there is like a monster hunter or beast hunter like subclass or whatever.
Okay.
But that's not the one I went with, because like it was like I wanted to be this is the flavor I wanted, but like I was like this mechanic of this other type of ranger seemed cooler and more effective in my mind. Yeah. So I just kind of tweaked it. It was like, okay, it was the Gloomstalker.
Yeah.
The Gloomstalker Ranger. So I was like, all right, because I don't think I decided he was going to be a dwarf yet. I just was like, I wanted a monster hunter. And then I was like, okay, Ranger, let's see how that Ranger sounds the best out of to do for that. So, and then I saw Gloomstalker. I'm like, ooh, okay. He's a hunter that works in the dark a lot. And it's like, okay, maybe like caves and stuff. Dwarf, like dwarves have, dwarves are of the mountain and caves and stuff like that. I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. A dwarf ranger who hunts monsters in the dark of the caves and stuff. And so I just kind of went through that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, I can add, I could do add rogue on top of that with some like assassin, because he's hunting down specific things, so like being able to like stalk things in the dark and do like a sneak attack or something like that, or sounded really cool. So like it starts off with like a very vague basic seed of an idea as far as the role play. It's like, okay, he's going to be a monster hunter. He's going to go out and fight these things. And then I find the class or the ability that kind of fits that, and then I just make that as effective as possible mechanically while building the story of the character on top of those mechanics.
Sure. And I find that I like to reskin stuff whenever I have a good reason to. And that's kind of your best friend when you are building a character for both mechanics and role play. Mm-hmm. Because, you just said like you were making a character that you wanted to be a monster hunter, and you saw there was some kind of a ranger archetype that was basically a monster hunter, but you didn't go with that. You went with what you liked better mechanically.
Yeah.
And like, that's something I feel like a lot of people are probably going to see, oh, well, there is a monster hunter option. I guess I have to go with that one because I am making my character a monster hunter. So I guess I'll go with that.
Yeah,
when we were making our when you were going to be running that Pathfinder 2nd edition game.
Yeah.
I was making a character. I think I decided that my character was going to be the captain of this like pirate ship that we had. Mm-hmm. And I was looking at the backgrounds that the characters have, because there's a billion backgrounds in Pathfinder in 2nd edition. And there were a couple, I think, that were like, oh, you're the captain of a ship. Or no, what was it? Hold on. I think there was no, sorry. I think I decided that my character was going to be like an escaped prisoner. He was a prisoner on this ship. He escaped, and then everybody else all the rest of the crew died, and then he took control of the ship.
Right.
And I think there was one or two backgrounds. There were one or two backgrounds that were like, you are an escaped prisoner. And yeah, those were cool, but mechanically they weren't very interesting to me. It was just kind of like skills I was going to have anyway. So I looked at at a background that had skills that was more interesting to me, skills that were more interesting to me. And then I don't even remember exactly what background I went with, but I took what they had, the basis for what they had for the background, and I just reflavored it a little bit so that it was closer in line with the idea I had for my character. So that it was not just that I was an escaped prisoner, it was that I was an escaped prisoner that became a captain or something. Yeah. So, when you do say, oh, well, I'm only playing for the role playing, I'm not playing for the mechanics, you're kind of cutting yourself off to potential options that you can then role play with, because the role playing is one thing and then the mechanics is another. If you join the two, you're really kind of just opening the door to more options, and then you can reflavor things. You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you can in order to make it like the perfect amalgamation for what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So I always cringe a little bit when someone draws a distinct line between role-playing ROLE and role-playing ROLL, because like there is benefit in both. There is good stuff to be gotten from both. There are lessons to be learned from both. Mm-hmm. Don't ever shut the door on one of those. Right. Even if I was playing in purely we're just going to be running encounters, running combat, and so on, I'm still going to make my character along some kind of a theme. I'm still going to involve some role playing in the decisions that I make.
Right. Yeah. It'd be completely boring. It would be super boring if you were just doing like, oh, like I'm going to be a human fighter and we're just going to do, we're just going to do encounters. It's like, no, I'm going to still make my character, like he's still going to have a personality, but it doesn't necessarily like, there's not going to be a role-playing use for it, but it's at the very least, it's more fun playing the character.
Yeah. All the time, even just like playing a board game or something, I still find myself imagining it as a story. And then, even if there's no benefit to doing so, it's not like I'm going to be talking as my character in Monopoly, or I'm going to be talking as the shoe. But just having in mind some sort of like a goal for who my character is and so on. It makes the game more fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that'll do it for our regular questions for today. But we do still have our social media questions. And our last social media question was, this was from our listener submissions episode, what are some changes you wish to see in the podcast in the next year?
Ooh.
So, looking forward to 2021, gonna hopefully make it a better year than 2020. Mm-hmm. And what are some things that we would like to see change in the next year, Jeff?
I don't know. No, we're perfect.
More good episodes.
I genuinely don't know. I like, there's obviously like we could always do more.
Yeah.
But it's harder to do more these days anyway. Like,
sure.
It's like you're very busy, and we have to do this apart now. So we have like not that many less options, but I don't know. Nothing specific comes to mind.
Yeah. I believe what I said was I wanted more guests.
Right.
So
yeah.
we did put a call out for if listeners would like to be a guest on the show, and we have gotten a couple of our listeners that have submitted stuff and such have contacted us, and we've got plans for working some in the next couple months. Yeah. So I think that's really cool. I'm definitely going to reach out to. I've reached out to a few other podcasts and stuff, so hoping to hear back. So yeah, hopefully by the next within the next couple months we will have several guests and more on the way.
Cool.
So that's definitely something I wanted to have. And this was kind of this is one of those questions that like I was a little afraid to ask it, because as much as I say like, oh, I would love to get negative feedback because if there's something we can improve on, I would like to know it. At the same time, it's scary though, because what if somebody's like, oh, you're doing a bad job at this and you should work on that. Number one, it's good to hear it because then we can work on it. But number two, I like to imagine that we're doing everything perfectly. And I know that's not the case.
Well, obviously not like nobody's perfect, but we're doing it, satisfactorily. It's like I feel like we're fairly solid in most cases. Sure. Yeah. Or if somebody's got a real problem with this, why didn't you tell us 200 episodes ago, man? Come on.
So anyway, over on Facebook, Jake F. And this is actually one that it's like, okay, that's a fair criticism. Jake F says, maybe once in a while, try an episode expounding on a very different type of RPG that might not have a lot of spotlight. I really liked the terrible RPG premise on that one episode. Suggestions: Mouse Guard RPG, Brinkwood, The Blood of Tyrants, 1,000-Year-Old Vampire, and Wanderhome come to mind. Ooh. And that is definitely a fair criticism. I think it was always my intention from the beginning to not have this just be a D&D podcast. There's plenty of podcasts out there that are just D&D, and that's good for them. But I do like that we, at least on paper, are open to other RPGs. There's two problems though, neither of which is insurmountable. First problem is most of our listeners have only played D&D, and so the majority of the questions that we get are D&D based. Also, number two, Jeff and I have primarily played D&D. I've never played Mouse Guard, Brinkwood, or 1,000-Year-Old Vampire or Wanderhome. Doesn't mean that I can't, and I should definitely be doing more to reach out and open up to those. So that is something I can improve on. But just when it comes time to make an episode, we can either do an easy episode talking about something that we already know a lot about and that we've gotten a lot of questions about, or we could put in more work and research another game and such.
Right.
Most of the time, we go with the easy option, and that is something we can improve on. Yeah. So no promises, Jake F, but we will try.
Sure. Yeah.
Sean M says, I like that you invite the call-in style recorded stuff. I'd like to see some structure to what you'd like. So general rules of thumb, maximum 2 minutes, family friendly, etc. More interviews. I bet there's some big names and hardworking outliers who would be good to have on as a monthly thing. I mostly like you and Jeff chatting though. Quick interviews. I imagine a bit like a reporter type. Hey, you, tell me what you think of blank. Maybe at cons and local comic shops once COVID clears up. Funny hats. Lots and lots of funny hats.
It's like a man on the street kind of thing.
So a few things in there. One was Sean, I believe, was referring to like our listener submissions episode. I didn't really give much structure for what was supposed to be submitted. One of the things we got was like 20 minutes from Dustin.
Yeah.
And fair. I didn't really put as much thought as maybe I should have, as much thought and planning into that episode as I should have. However, I would like to do more listener submissions episodes in the future. So in the future, expect more structure, expect more examples of what we want, and so on. I definitely did a bad job of explaining what it was we wanted. So like the first few submissions we got, it's like, that's just what we do every week. That's just discussion questions,
Right. So, yeah, sure.
So fair enough. And yeah, doing more interviews I think would be cool if we are able to do, if there are conventions and such. I would love to go to a convention and like ask people RPG questions. I think that would be really, really cool.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
So, pandemic willing, wait and see. I think we'll try to do some cool stuff like that in the future.
Yeah.
And as far as funny hats, dog, we're wearing funny hats every episode. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
have you not been watching the stream?
Right.
Oh, shoot. I forgot to put up a stream. I forgot to include video for this podcast.
I forgot to tell anybody that we've been streaming live these episodes this whole time.
Yeah. I've been wondering why we haven't gotten, nobody has clicked the button to tell us to take a drink of water.
The hydrate button.
Yep.
Oh, goodness.
Because whenever Jeff is streaming, for at the beginning at least, he would be constantly getting people telling him to hydrate because it was really cheap.
Gosh, yeah, it's silliness. Okay.
Yeah.
I have to go to the bathroom all the time.
And there's actually there's a couple more on here on Facebook, and they're basically it's just Jake and Sean going back and forth. Jake said he added, maybe once in a while you could try a top 5 or top 10 list the way the Dice Tower podcast does or did. Top 5 magic items, top 5 published adventures, top 5 aberrations, top 5 characters your players have brought to the table, that sort of thing. I think that's a great idea. I feel like that might work better as like a social media question or something to get responses from listeners as well. Because that sort of thing, if we were to do it as a discussion question, I feel like it'd be over really quickly. But who knows? I mean, I'll try to use some of those in the future, either for regular discussion questions or social media discussion questions. So I'm happy to hear that as a suggestion. And then Sean and Jake just kind of in response to that just went back and forth saying like, don't overdo it. We don't want to become a list show or anything.
Well,
but,
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. That being said, it's a great idea, and I will try to take that into consideration. So that was on Facebook. Over on Reddit, just one. Alistar the Minotaur says, this is a tough question. The only thing I could maybe think of is doing spotlight segments occasionally about other tabletop RPG systems like Pathfinder, Monster of the Week, Warhammer, GURPS, and others. So I will try to, in this coming year, have more episodes that do focus on other RPGs. That's always been an intention. However, whether I've actually followed up on it, don't at me, I guess. Over on Twitter, we just got one. Damien the DM says, still waiting for the official InterPartyConflict actual play podcast. I responded, you and me both.
Right,
I don't see us doing that again while we are still doing InterPartyConflict. If and when this podcast ends, maybe expect some sort of actual play afterwards. Who knows?
Right.
But I learned when I tried that 2 years ago that I do not have time.
Sure. Right. Yeah. It's a lot of work.
A lot of work. And then over on Discord, Stiltskin Kupo 84 says, terrible D&D joke of the week or terrible D&D pickup lines. More cowbell. No to all three.
Hey,
no. I mean, occasionally, I don't know about of the week.
Who sent that in?
That was Stiltskin Kupo 84.
Stiltskin Kupo, sidebar. I could probably bring in a cowbell. I'll see about that.
I'll see if I can get a good cowbell sound effect to put in.
I can get it on my soundboard.
Then get on that, Jeff. It's on you. Dustin says, new segment, DM Dumpster. People send in their stories of DM disasters.
Oh, right.
And sure. I mean, that's not a terrible idea. But the thing that I've learned about listener submissions is that people don't send them.
Right. Yeah.
We've got a good amount of stuff like for our questions and magic items and such, but I feel like if I was like, hey, everybody send in your DM disasters and we'll do a new segment, we would have about 4 episodes worth of material.
Well, here's a solution to that. Yeah. We could have that be the third type of funeral pyre thing. So there's the retirement village, but we could also do the DM disaster, or what do you call it? DM dumpster fire?
DM dumpster.
DM dumpster, where the sound effect we play for it could be like a truck backing up.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, I will tell you what. This is just a call to all listeners. If you have, I will say, so far, our funeral pyre has primarily just been the funeral pyre, and then we've had maybe 3 or 4 retirement villages instead.
Right.
If you have a story that you would like to go in that segment, it can be of any variety, but you have to send it in to us, and then you have to tell us what the theme is for this segment. I'll make that kind of like a free form segment. By default, it's the I was about to say the retirement village. It's not. By default, it's the funeral pyre.
Right.
However, if you would like a story of yours to be some other thing in that segment, send it in. Tell us what you want it to be. We'll make it work.
Right.
That's not a bad idea, actually. That's a pretty good idea. Thank you, Dustin, and thank you, Jeff.
Yeah. And at a relatively short, not, don't go super crazy long with it. it's but like you've heard our show. You know how long the funeral pyres are. Around that length would be good.
Yeah. Occasionally they're long. Most of the time they're pretty short.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're not like paragraphs and paragraphs. There might be like a paragraph or two sometimes, but
sure. And then Dustin did say one more thing. List the Dragon's Hoard item in the podcast description. That's not a bad suggestion. I will see about that. The only thing is that if I start doing that, I feel like I'm going to have to go back and add it into every previous episode, which isn't out of the question, but
yeah, that's not like, I mean, like that's a thing that will take a while, but that's not like the most daunting thing, I guess. Yeah.
I'll try to start adding it from now on. So if it's in this episode, Dustin, you made a difference.
And is he talking about like the like SoundCloud description or just...
Yeah. There was, when we first started the podcast, I didn't put questions in the podcast description. And I realized maybe 150 episodes, not 150, at least 100 episodes in, I was like, oh shoot, I should really be putting the questions in the description. And so I set aside like 3 hours one day and just went into every single episode and then copied and pasted the format, typed in each, it took forever, but I did do it. And I do think it is, it may have been too little too late, but it's better going forward.
Sure.
I'll try to start adding in the Dragon's Hoard going forward. No promise on when it will start being in retroactively though.
Right. Yeah.
The Beverage Tea says two things. First one, Jeff does this episode is brought to you by the Spell Blank segment, a la Grover and Sesame Street, with a British accented reading of one spell from Player's Handbook, Xanathar's Guide to Everything, etc.
I kind of don't hate that. I kind of like that idea.
Okay.
Like, well, I'll tell you what. Like, this episode is brought to you by the letter, kind of that style of...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff, if you want to do that, go for it.
Yeah.
But that's on you.
Sure. Yeah. Like, maybe like, the top of the episode, I might be like,
sure.
Do you want to get into this episode? But it was like, yes, Gabe, but first. Yeah.
Sure. And then the second one is Know Your Eberron, and then parentheses, Forgotten Realms, Ravnica, Greyhawk, Dark Sun, etc. A short piece of D&D lore or trivia for us that are too lazy, too broke, or started in 5th edition to learn something about the official campaign settings. And that is a cool idea. However, to do it regularly, I think that's a lot of work to find bits of trivia to put in every episode.
But I think in the same way that we did like the Planescape episode, and like we have done an Eberron episode too.
That's true.
So like maybe like every once in a great while we could have an episode that is more like geared towards those campaign settings or something.
Yeah, an episode once in a while I think is fine. We actually do have one or two that we've been planning for a while that we just haven't actually come out with that are not necessarily campaign setting related, but like are that sort of, what's the deal with this thing, and then so on. So I don't know. We'll try to work in some of that, not necessarily on a long-term basis, but we'll try to work in episodes about those sorts of things in the future.
Yeah.
Floofy Shoob says, Dragon's Hoard features a custom magic item of the week, but what I like to see is a custom beastie of the week. Ooh. We don't need more treasure, we need more opponents. And you can call it the Dragon's Hoard, HORDE.
Sure.
I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I can't promise we will do it anytime soon, but maybe similar to the, retirement village and whatever else we may be including in there. I would not be against having that as an occasional segment during the Dragon's Hoard.
Right.
I think that could be good.
Yeah. Like reading out a stat block of a monster might take a little bit more time, so we might need to cut down some of it, but like just like a short description of the monster, and then like maybe it's like key feature or something like that. Sure.
Dustin pointed out that he tagged Justin from Crit Academy. It was like, watch out, we're coming for your segments.
Oh, no.
And it's true, because that is what they do, that one of those every episode.
Sure.
And then I said, I imagine human podcasting society is heading towards a singularity. Eventually, there will be only one tabletop gaming podcast, and it will be InterPartyConflict. I thought that's just me, just repeating my joke for anybody who missed it.
Great.
Anyway, but Justin came in and said he accepts the challenge. And then just a couple more. The Beverage Tea says, here's an idea. Flintstones/Jetsons-esque crossover. Ian co-hosts an episode with Gabe and Jeff co-hosts an episode with Justin. Imagine the combat that Ian would bring to the Dragon's Horde segment and the calming Zen-like effect Jeff would have on the Don't Be a Dick segment.
Do I have a calming Zen-like effect? I'm sorry.
Yeah, more on that in a second. It could be either glorious or a disaster. There would be no middle ground. I mean, I feel like you do, Jeff.
Okay.
I have said on episodes in the past where I feel like on our first episode, I was like, welcome to InterPartyConflict. And then, my name's Gabe. And then you're just like, yo, what up? It's Jeff.
Hey, how's everyone doing out there?
Pretty much.
Right, sure.
So I don't know. And then just there's an additional part to that. Or a revivification spell. Ian and Jeff do a knockoff D&D character lab session or parody. Which, I mean... That sounds like a lot of fun, but don't expect anything like that anytime soon. I'll say that. And then Autumn Wind says, character close-up. This may be you guys, a question for a guest, or a listener submission. Explain your favorite character's backstory, emphasis on story, not mechanics, and what you like about role-playing that character. That's not bad.
Emphasis on story, not mechanics. Never.
That's not a bad idea. Like if we were to, I feel like that would work for like one of our non-numbered bonus, or one of our like bonus episodes, because every year we do at least 2 so that we have 50 episodes a year instead of 52, because 52 is a stupid number. That wouldn't be a bad idea for something like that. I actually, when we first started the podcast, real talk here for a second, I had an idea for a bonus episode I could do where it was just kind of me talking about my character Ichi, like talking all about his backstory. And I was like, I'll just record this in my free time. It'll be, it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be really easy. And then I'll get it edited and I'll just put it up as a bonus episode. But I started recording and like 3 hours later, I was like, oh shoot, I can't. I've been talking for 3 hours. This isn't an episode. What is this? This is nothing. This is garbage. This is 3 hours of garbage. Nobody's going to listen to this. So I never did anything with it because I just kept talking. It just kept going.
Sure.
I had a lot more to say than I thought I did, and to cut it down would have been a lot of work, so I didn't do it. So what I'm saying is that I've toyed with this idea in the past, but it's, I don't know. There is a skill that comes in cutting down. There's a skill that is required to cut something like that down to a digestible bit of media.
Right.
I could talk for 3 hours. Maybe 1 or 2 of you would enjoy listening to it, but to make something, to have it be something that I feel good putting out in the public would require a lot of editing, both editing of the audio and also editing like what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
So it's more work than you think is what I'm saying.
Sure.
Maybe sometime in the future, again, we'll do something like that for a bonus episode. So that was everybody. We had a lot, there was a lot to say in response to that stuff, but I like,
well, that's good.
I think this was a good opportunity to give out some behind the scenes information about the podcast, right. And
stuff like get a little bit of feedback and everything. It's nice.
Yeah. So thank you everybody who wrote in. So that was our last social media question. Our next social media question.
Who do you think you are?
Oh boy.
Sorry,
what gives you the right?
Right, yeah. No, that's not the question.
No, the next question is, what is your favorite color or variety of dragon? I thought surely we've done this question before.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I didn't see it anywhere. So if we've done it before, we're doing it again. So Jeff, what's your favorite color or variety of dragon?
I don't know. As just off the top of my head, I guess chromatic. I'm thinking probably black.
Yeah.
Metallic. I think maybe copper.
Yeah. So for a while, I think my favorite was blue, just because like for a long time I was really into like lawful things, like lawful evil things in particular. That after playing with that character that I mentioned earlier, like I loved the idea of someone that was like very methodical, very manipulative, and so on in a game like D&D. And so I was very into lawful evil stuff. So I started to really like blue dragons, because blue dragons are lawful evil.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think probably my all around favorite is probably copper dragons because like they're so goofy. They love pranks and jokes.
Right, yeah.
Imagine being pranked by like a gargantuan dragon.
Right, yeah.
What would that be like? I do still like some things about the blue dragon. I would say maybe they're my second favorite. I like how they live in the desert and they like will, I don't know, build like a lair under the sand and such. Maybe that has like a trap that you fall into that they catch people traveling through the desert or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool. I also like lightning. I think it's more unique than everybody uses fire. Fire. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
But of those, I mean, I know there's like gem dragons that are neutral, and there's like
I'm like obviously like I have some of the non-standard dragons. There are plenty that I'd be like, that one's really cool. I'd probably go with that one, but like I feel like to narrow it down to be able to actually answer like just with like between metallic and chromatic. I think like overall maybe I think I agree copper. But I'm thinking more aesthetically really too. Sure. And I guess if I'm going with that, I think I like blue dragon better than black dragon just because I like the big horn. I don't know. It's like big rhino dragon. They're cool. I
like with the copper dragon. I like their two horns going back. They're like swept back and they sort of come up at the last second. They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like gold dragons and their weird like beard.
Right. Yeah. They got whiskers.
Yeah.
So dragons are cool.
Yeah, so I'm interested to hear what some of our listeners have to say. I wonder if there will be a specific trend or if it'll be, across the board.
Right.
So that'll do it for our questions for today. But before we close out, let's wind down. Let's take a deep breath. Let's remember those who have come before us, who have given their lives so that we may have a better world to live in as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. Today's funeral pyre was submitted by Funky Bee via Reddit. Alexei the acrobat and trick shot artist suffered a psychological break after watching a friend die and losing his arm. He assumed he was in a pocket reality, a phenomenon he'd experienced once before that ended when he died there. So he got super reckless, venturing first into dark, dangerous places, speaking openly about things likely to get him in trouble with otherworldly forces, disregarding the safety of his other friends. This culminated with him holding a signal flare in his teeth and lighting it with a match, successfully igniting 2 gas-soaked cultists while simultaneously scorching his own face enough to kill him. His last thoughts were of how nice it would be to get back to reality, where his friend is alive and he has both arms.
Oh, man. That's,
oh, boy.
That's a lot.
I thought this might be a fun, refreshing one, but, I mean, I guess it's about a character death. I don't know why I was expecting that.
Sure, yeah.
So, let's raise a glass as we say to Alexei the acrobat, womp womp.
Okay. Clink.
All right. That'll do it for today. I think that was a fun episode today. I think, especially with the social media question, I think there's a lot of fun discussion there. So if you'd like to submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Horde, or stories for the funeral pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned in the show, and running lists of question magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/InterPartyConflict. We're also on Reddit, on our Interparty Discord. We're on Twitter @InPartyConflict. Check those out for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you download podcasts. Please leave us a rating, leave us a review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you'd like to support the show monetarily, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. We have a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is a YouTube channel where you can watch us play video games, or you can watch me play live at twitch.tv/tiltedturtle.
There you go. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hackers RPG. So, Jeff, until next time.
Gabe, what did you put in this turkey?
Love, Jeff. Love.